Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dawn of Drones podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting. So great to have you back. We are in mid-February already. This is our Dual Use Technologies Month, kindly and generously sponsored by Northrop Grumman. We've had some amazing speakers so far. We had, of course, Colonel retired United States Army Rob Menti from Northrop talk about counter UAS and their incredible technology. And then we had the Israeli-based company Mobilicom CEO Oren Elkayam last week talk about their cybersecurity and end-to-end smart solutions for drones that are perfectly adaptable to the military, actually battle-tested in Israel, in the military, and for the commercial sectors. We're taking a little bit of a pivot this week, as we think about dual use. We're kind of being a little bit futuristic today. We have with us Shern Peters. He is the CEO of NANCo Aero, a grassroots Houston, Texas-based company that is looking to do amazing things for both the military and the civilian sectors. And so, Shern, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Look forward to it. It's a pleasure. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So just a reminder, this is a live stream. Please jump into the chat, ask your questions, give your comments, give us positive encouragement. We love all of it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everybody that Shern is actually here as part of a larger philanthropic Volatus Aerospace Above and Beyond series. Throughout this entire year, Volatus is sponsoring companies like Shern's that are up and comers in the industry that have big ideas, and like Volatus, of course, always go above and beyond. So thanks to Volatus for that. So Shern, before we get into your flying cars, and by the way, everybody, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking Jetsons, flying cars. I want to ask a little bit about yourself. You have such a unique background. So let's kind of start at the beginning.
Yep.
I remember from our Clubhouse discussion last Thursday, by the way, everybody, if you missed it, that replay is available on Clubhouse, and I posted it up on LinkedIn as well. I believe you mentioned that pretty early on in your life, you were inspired and wanted to be like a rocket scientist. Like, tell us about that. Like, what inspired you as a little child to say, this is what I want to do with my life?
Um, I don't know. It's just dreams like this. It's like why do you like the color blue or anything? It's just I wanted to fly. There was dreams I would have, imaginations of flying. So making a aircraft, I mean, whether it was a rocket, airplane, helicopter, just I wanted to fly and I wanted to build things. So build things that fly, just put it together and just held my interest for a long time until I decided I'm really going to make them.
And you clearly moved towards that dream throughout your life and career. And it's, obviously started maybe a little bit in high school, but in college, tell us about like what you focused on as your major and kind of what that led to right afterwards.
So the goal going into Florida, I went to a Florida Institute of Technology. The goal going into it was to, build robots and build rockets, but they didn't have a direct lane for that. So the best is mechanical engineering and electrical engineering with, other classes thrown in that I would take, instead of taking a BS elective or, a useless elective, I would take on like aeronautics, business, and kind of other graduate stuff in terms of science, mechatronics classes, so I could get a good, robust idea of how to make anything that came to my mind.
Well, you used the term there that most people may not be familiar with, this mechatronics term. And honestly, Shern, when you'd mention it in Clubhouse, I didn't know what it was. I looked it up, and it actually is engineers using a combination of mechanical, electrical, computer, and software skills to work with smart technologies such as robots, automated guided systems, and computer integrated manufacturing equipment. So mechatronics, who knew? It's a real thing. And there you were at FIT, like dabbling in that already. And when you graduated from FIT, you jumped into, remind me, I think it was critical infrastructure. kind of interesting career path initially?
We say initially, well, my real engineering career began in Houston in the oil field.
Right.
Not necessarily infrastructure, but structures. So large drilling bits, pipe, things that cut the pipe, stuff that destroys stuff, things that contain high pressure, things that screw the pipe, high torque, and mechanisms that count how much they turn. I saw the screen freeze, so I'm not sure if my connection is good a little bit.
Yeah, I saw that too, but we're good to go. So you talked about kind of the oil and gas field. That honestly, sure, and that's why my brain went to critical infrastructure, because the energy sector is one of those 16 sectors of critical infrastructure. According to DHS, and so you were in it, and you were working on all kinds of things. In fact, tell us about the patents. How many patents did you earn towards your name during your kind of initial years there working with the oil and gas sector?
So the major patents that I got was with National Oil Well Varco, and that is it's a system, methodology and system for severing tubing. So pipe goes into the drill well, right? Big strong pipe, talking 9 inches, 12-inch casing. So whatever the driller puts into the well, I had to be able to cut it and seal the well to ensure nothing blows out. So,
Yep.
there's a blowout Macondo, the Gulf blowout. Bad thing. If a rig blows, the whole rig blows up. So we
Yep.
need a mechanism to cut the well and seal it, contain it, so that the rig does not blow. So blowout prevention is what I got, multiple patents in. So the piece that could cut any the shear. It's
Yep.
like the low force shear, but an indestructible shear because pipes are very strong. So creating something even stronger than that to cut it, and even more
Right.
so, cut it and seal high pressures. The knowledge in that is highly important and definitely can be used in the advanced air mobility industry.
Well, and that's kind of what I was getting at. You have this really interesting background. You accrued a number of patents early on, right, through this oil and gas career that you began with this dream that you wanted to make aircraft, you wanted to make robots. So tell me then, kind of through this journey, how you were able to pivot to start focusing on aircraft and robots.
Um, it was pretty much a personal decision. There's no direct linkage or company to work for to go from oil field to advanced air mobility or general aviation. Even though I've seen many NASA folks go from NASA to the oil field, when the oil field's booming. But I just it was something that I wanted to do from graduating Florida Tech throughout my whole career in the oil field. So learning structures, learning how to engineer things, right? In school, you're taught a whole lot of theory. My goal was, hey, let's test that theory. If they say bending and the amount of stress that can be handled by this beam, I calculated to be as that. The oil field allowed me to physically test these theories of when it will break, the real strength of materials. Meaning, yes, a bolt may say it could hold 100,000 pounds, but really, and how will it break? At what point will it break? And what's the mechanism, process of which it break? Therefore, I could stop it or reduce any stresses we had. But learning that with the idea of a flying car in my back pocket, everything that I was learning was to be used for a flying car. So, it was always there. So as I'm learning, going into a new project, like, yes, I want to know that because it fits to my big idea. They would throw on, hey, Shern, you want to do this new project? Yes, because it fits with my big idea. Hey, you want to learn how to do this finite element analysis, FEA analysis? Yes, I want to know everything on how to engineer because it fits with my big idea. And then once I learned it all, just hey, it's time. I've conquered engineering. I've conquered the oil field. There's nothing really new out there that I don't know. And they're not really taking on the new ideas that I'm giving to them. They just want me to stick with the regular. So, hey, sure, go do your big idea. It's a flying car. You have the knowledge. So it was really a personal decision to jump and, what do you say, leap off the cliff and, spread your wings and fly and, pray, let God, let time do its thing. And here we are interviewing with Dawn of the Drones.
Well, look, you and I met at the Energy Drone Robotics Coalition Summit in Houston, Texas last year. And I saw your booth, I saw your ER Mini, and we're going to talk about your vehicles here in a second. And I was like, this person clearly, if anything, I think should come through to everybody that's watching right now. It's how clearly passionate you are about what you do. The fact that you have, which by the way, everybody, I don't know that I've actually mentioned this, he has 8 patents to his name at this time, some of which were garnered, as we just said earlier, in his oil and gas, time, but more recently in his company, NANCo. So let's skip to the big idea. Let's talk about this flying car, and let's first talk about NANCo. So first of all, NANCo is, being military, dual use month. It's a fun acronym. So tell everybody what the acronym NANCo actually stands for.
So NANCo stands for New Age Nerds Corporation. So who would make flying cars but some new age nerds? And those guys, I love those guys.
I love it too, and I don't think if you've told people that they would know what that meant. But nerds, as I said in Clubhouse, nerds of the world unite. That's awesome. What year did you actually form the company?
So we actually formed, it's a bit of a transition. So there's the New Age Nerds Corporation, then there's NANCo Aero. NANCo Aero is a 2020 company. We launched that, and that's specifically to develop advanced air vehicles. And that's from the large, full-scale flying car, carries people, all the way down to the miniature drone type vehicle. So, 2020 was the beginning of us, as well as it seems like the whole industry, because Agility Prime started at the same time, and a lot of other organizations really blew up around the same time. So it seems as if I got in on the right foot at the right time.
Yeah, I agree, Shern. It was really interesting. 2020 was almost, some people call it the year that wasn't. Just because, as we all know, in March, and in fact, I remember the day, March 13th, it's like, at least in the United States, the world shut down with COVID. But yet I did see, and I think you would agree, the drone industry in particular really start taking off and really blossoming, I would say last year. When we talk about the FAA, this crawl, walk, run kind of paradigm, I feel like, we're a little bit above this crawl, right? We're starting to walk a little bit here. And that's been in the last 2 years since your company came into being. By the way, Shern, I got to tell you, Dan Julin is out there. He is also from Canada. And he says, well done, Shern. Fascinating conversation so far. So thanks, Dan, for chiming in. He joins our podcast quite a bit. So really appreciate you, Dan. So let's kind of start small and then go big, because you have like 3 different classes of vehicle, and you've got like this tiered approach and kind of a deliberate plan and process on how you're no pun, rolling these out, because it's a flying car. So let's talk about first your small drone, which is the ER Mini, if I recall correctly. I think you might have one with you. I don't know if there's a way you can show everybody what it looks like. I'm all about, I'm a lawyer, all about demonstrative evidence. So love to see this thing. Okay, so super cool. So can you walk us through some of the features of this drone, which is essentially, it's a vertical takeoff and landing drone, right?
Right. Still is the eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing. Right. So starts off on the ground as such. Now the goal is, of course, lift straight up. That's the vertical. Yes, it is a drone, flies just like a drone, but we have an emphasis on safety. We're not designing this to really be a drone like the rest of the drones. Remember, I started from the flying car aspect, and this is a miniature flying car. So when you come from the flying car aspect, safety is first. So when I started with the helicopter and breaking it down, it's like I don't like open propellers. So
Yeah.
first thing you'll notice, electric ducted fans is what we use, mainly for the safety. Protected propellers gives a more peace of mind if I am a pilot or passenger about to walk onto this aircraft, and there's I don't want blades spinning in my face. So I just and that's a personal thing. And I think, I was right when I said, hey, I don't like that. And I don't think many people are going to want that. So let me make it to where I would like it and others will. So come to find out, yes, a lot of people don't like open propellers. Especially when it comes to if they are going to get on the aircraft. For drones and stuff, that's fine. But even at the drone level, for
Right.
ours, well,
Yep.
now with the protected propellers, we could come close to things without our vehicle come crashing down, because you can't fly a drone or a regular drone into a wall. It's going to crash. You can't fly it
Well,
into a tree. It's going to
and
crash.
honestly, when you think about operations over people and the safety requirements to have, right, protective, something protective around those blades for that very reason, like yours is built in.
Built in from
So
day one. Safety, safety.
day one, that's so cool. So do you want to roll the video now and like so people can see how it takes off?
Definitely, definitely, you could.
All right, I'll have my producer Mike roll.
Hmm. This is one of our teaser videos. More videos will definitely come. You'll see it. This is our test garage, testing it out. Very short video. I know. I wish I had more.
And I know you're working on it. I mean, look, I can see where you're working right there. This is clearly your
This is
workshop. You're working
right.
out of a garage in Houston. We talked about this in Clubhouse that, unlike so many other drone companies, especially in the US, that are bankrolled by larger companies or have, large capital infusions, you're really doing this from the ground up. I mean, Shern, you're raising money through Patreon. Okay. So for everybody out there, if you don't know what Patreon is, by the way, I have one too. So join both of ours. Um, it's really it's a platform where artists, creators, and in
Mhm.
Sharon's case, aircraft creator, in my case, content creator, can put their work where a community can subscribe to that and follow that person and get exclusive content. And so I know that's something you're doing. So let's talk for a second about what you call your flight club on Patreon. And that's basically one of the ways that you're trying to raise some funds, one of several ways,
Mhm.
to support your very big ideas.
Yeah. So Patreon, our subscription. I guess go on Patreon, look for NANCo Aero or NANCo Tech. We'll be under both of those to get you there. So our flight club. So it's our subscription, pretty much our club. If you want to join our club to be a part of us with what we are doing, if you're interested in building some flying cars, or just following along with some flying cars, as we develop, you know, a byproduct of flying cars are a whole bunch of cool technologies to be developed. And we'll be developing those too. One of which is the simulator. The simulator is on our Patreon. So those in Flight Club on the Patreon, they get first access to everything we create. So before it hits YouTube, before it hits the rest of the world, our Flight Club members get everything first and get to enjoy it for a good bit of time. Then it'll go out to the rest of the world. So that is a Flight Club, as well as some learning, downloading some stuff. What do we have? All type everything that we create goes on there, and we're creating a lot.
Yeah, and so you raise a great point that I'd like to really highlight here, which is, you know, this ER Mini that you just showed us and we saw the video of. it's really kind of a stepping stone, a prototype, if you will, of these two. You've got two larger vehicles that you intend to create, which we'll get to in a second. But this ER Mini is available now. Is that correct? People can
That,
actually obtain this?
that is correct. People, it is available on our website, um, NANCo.aero. Uh, look through halfway through the page, you'll see the little picture, ER Minis. Click to those. We are pre-selling at the moment. We're looking at a pre-sale for a springtime release. So yes, what you just saw here, what you saw in the video, a bit more refined and perfected by the time spring comes. But we will put the miniature flying cars, ER Minis, in your hands. Yes.
And from a spec standpoint, Shern, because we didn't really talk about this, even with the Mini, right? Your vision is that this can be used for not only recreational use, but also for, kind of commercial use. It can carry how many pounds? Up to about a kilometer?
Up to 2 pounds, up to a kilometer. Yes.
And
So
yeah, so and this simulator, this idea that you've created, not only is in Patreon, but do you have a free app on your website as well where people can start flying in a
yes.
sim essentially for free?
Definitely. So the simulator is for free on the website. I forgot to mention that. So that simulator is the PC simulator. So you can download it. It's totally free. And it's actually the big version. So, you know, notes on whenever you put a digital twin, a new industry term, a digital twin of Houston, Texas, New York, there's total of 4 cities. I can't remember the other 2 cities, but I'm putting you in multiple environments to literally fly those environments with the full scale version, which is the Ether Rider, through these cities. One of them being Houston, but those digital twins takes a lot of processing power. So when you download, yes, the app is free, but make sure you got a pretty powerful computer in order to get the best fluid experience. So, if you download it and it's a bit choppy, it is because of it needs a lot of processing power. Just note, on our Patreon, we've since then upgraded the application to VR, so the metaverse. So you would, we're putting you literally with VR inside of the vehicle, and that's for free on the Patreon.
And this is all part of, your big idea of putting people eventually into larger versions of this ER Mini. By the way, you just used the term, and is ER also an acronym?
Yes,
Okay.
ER is a double entendre acronym. So the full scale is what's the name of our flying car? It's the Ether Rider, right? So that atmosphere, that invisible thing, ether is what they used to call it. Riding on Ether Rider. I like that Ether Rider. So the ER Mini is an acronym for that, but also our main aspect of our vehicles is to serve the emergency response industry. So it just happened to be that way, and it happened to fit, and I love it, so it's sticking.
I love it too, and I think that is a great segue to your next larger vehicle that you have, you set sights on. What's the second bigger vehicle, the one that's next on your plate?
So we call that the single person carrier, the middle class. We're playing with a few, class names because classes don't technically exist, but it is let's say a large drone. Um, it's the halfway between the ER Mini and the full scale vehicle. Could carry 4 people. So that mid scale could carry one person, 200 pounds, 200 pounds payload. So that could either be one person or 200 pounds of packages or anything else that you would want to be delivered by a drone.
And this one is going to be the size of about like one of those minis, the car that's called a mini.
Yeah, yeah, like smart car, about the size of a smart car.
Okay. And again, the vision for this, and you said it could carry a single passenger. What use you said emergency response. So let's talk about the that commercial, if you will, civil use case, and then I want to pivot to military.
Okay.
What kind, like how would an emergency responder
Mhm.
use this vehicle once you're able to get it flying?
Okay, so um, we're in Houston. Houston does flood. So looking at emergency response, outside of regular crashes and ambulances getting stuck in traffic, so avoiding traffic entirely is the main aspect that we are bringing with the vehicle. So
Because
anyone,
Houston has some traffic. I
oof,
mean, I remember when I was at the summit and I was like, I had to catch my plane, and I was just asking people like, all right, how much time do I need to build in here to get to the
hours.
airport from that Marriott? And people like, oh well, you know, the traffic here can be really bad. You might want to leave at least 3 hours ahead. And I'm like, what? And there was some storms coming that particular day as well, which I think was going to make, like you said, flooding and make it worse.
Right.
So, very lofty goal to literally be flying over traffic. But so it would get them off the streets, if you will,
Right.
flying above with a human in that vehicle. And what are they doing in it? Like, what are the possibilities with one person in this vehicle?
With one person, they can get theirs because if you can imagine like how some of the emergency services plan to go in the future, you kind of want a doctor on wheels almost, or at least as close to a doctor in each one of those paramedics. So if you got one paramedic equipped with all the latest and greatest technology to save one's life, well, you could get that one perfect doctor in the box to any location around the city. That's our ultimate goal. So going back to Houston, if it a lot of traffic, a lot of people, and if you throw in a hurricane and it floods, a lot of people, vehicles everywhere, you just can't move around. These emergency services, they still have to move around or lives will be lost, right? So that is our main goal is to provide them the method to make their jobs easier, right? So if there's a fire somewhere, a fire department, that person can get there to at least begin the initial process of addressing whatever emergency that is there.
Yeah, I mean, look, Houston's not the only place that floods, and you just mentioned fires. I mean, literally, the world was on fire last year. I mean,
Mm,
I'm in Colorado, and in fact, just in December, a freak, firestorm, if you will, took out like I think almost 1,000 homes in Boulder. So this idea, that you could have a person in a car that, an emergency responder, not just a drone, you could talk through or drop some stuff to people, but to actually have a person that could get to
right.
very difficult to reach places is really critical. Now, look, Sharon, you and I both know, like putting a person in a vehicle, even if it's piloted by that person,
Right.
right, not remotely piloted from somewhere else,
Right.
that's going to be a significant like haul, right, to get that certification. Because once you start adding humans onto those vehicles in the air, we're kicking it up a couple notches. But this is also maybe a great segue because when you think about that certification process, so many companies work with the military.
Mhm.
This is Dual Use Technologies Month. As I think about it, the Air Force has been really on the cutting edge with AFWorks, and we've seen companies like Joby, like Beta Technologies, and so many others getting initial certifications through the military, experimental, other certifications, which are really stepping stones to proving out that safety and use case, right, to the FAA and paving the way for everybody else, including people like you. So I think it's exciting times because we're seeing more and more in that arena. What
Mhm.
would be your vision for how this ER, I think you call it the industrial class, or the kind of the mid-size, would be
Okay.
used like on the battlefield?
Okay. So for they call for the war fighter, right? So war fighters need weapons or shields, right? That's how my perspective on it. So initially it's like, they mean that, but lately, now that I've dove deeper into what we're trying to do, and as well as the technology that we do have, well, to be quite frankly, we are going to kick a helicopter's butt. So our vehicle is to be more agile, to be a better weapon than a helicopter, to move way better, right? The agility and how it moves in an urban environment is what we plan to offer the warfighter in those situations, right? Once you have that, well, now you have the upper hand or underhand or what have you, versus another currently the most agile aircraft that is out there, because helicopters do a lot of damage and is currently one of the top war fighters weapons, right? So if you create something that can beat that, oh, then you have something that the war fighter could really utilize and potentially need during those times. And yeah.
Yeah, as I think about it, I think your larger vehicle class, your largest one, I think you're calling it the ER full scale, at least at this point.
Right.
That can carry, what did you say, 4 people?
4 passengers, correct.
4 passengers. So, and that includes the pilot, so pilot plus 3.
Right.
As I think about battlefield uses, that's probably one of the more relevant technologies, maybe other than the mini that can get into small places, like so many, like other drones, but the larger class, because when you think about personnel recovery, downed soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines on the battlefield, and the need to get to them quickly
Right.
at low level altitudes, quietly, be able to grab those folks, get them up and get them to medical care. That would probably be ideal use, like the larger vehicle. So how much weight, what's your vision for this largest kind of 4 passenger or 4 person, shall we call it, vehicle?
So you said how much longer? Like when do we plan
No,
to?
how much weight can it carry? Like what are the
Oh,
specs? And
yes.
I think in terms of specs, because the Vertical Flight Society has this incredible eVTOL directory. By the way, if you're not on it, you need to call them and get on it.
Yeah.
They have, gosh, I think last count,
But,
uh,
yes.
800 actual vehicles in all stages of initial prototype design, all the way up to this one's already built and we've flown it.
Right.
So like what would be the specs, if you will, how far, how fast, how much weight, that kind of thing for your largest vehicle?
So for the ER full scale, total weight, we're looking at a ton. We're keeping at a ton. Is our goal. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but 2,000 pounds or 2,500, depending on where you are. Um, Total weight, but 800-pound payload. Now, whether you put passengers or other things on it is up to whoever's using it. But our goal is 1-ton vehicle, 800 payload included, flying. We're going to regulate to begin with, usually on the civilian side, to 100 miles an hour. Of course, it could go much faster. We're just, dealing with the imbalance of forces. Once you get going forward, the force, you can always accelerate. So we can go as fast as we want, but I don't want anybody driving this thing 300 miles an hour at the beginning of the industry, because if there are any wrecks or any problems, it could spell disaster for the whole industry. So we would rather limit some flyers. So that doesn't limit how fast we can go, though. So 100 miles an hour. The goal is 300, not 300, 3,000 feet ceiling, though, yes, we could fly much higher.
Yeah.
We're looking at probably about 10,000 feet before you start to receive the effects of losing power or altitude, but not really stalling out right at
Well,
10,000.
how does that affect the human? I mean, look, I don't know a lot. I know even in fighter jets and up, they're wearing helmets. They've got oxygen sometimes.
Right.
Look, the higher you go, like how's that going to affect the pilot if you have
It
a human?
will. It will. There's going to be lack of oxygen. He can't breathe. It's going to get much colder and uncomfortable. So you don't want to be up there anyway. So that's my thing. So yeah, when people ask, well, how high? Well, we're 2,000 feet is the limit. 3,000 is the FAA limit. So we're staying in there. The vehicle could probably take you beyond, but that goes other problems. So let's stay out of there for now.
Yeah.
Range. Houston corner to corner is 45 miles. So that's going to be our minimum. Our ultimate goal is to connect the Texas Triangle which is Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, which is 300 miles between all three of those. Now that 300-mile range is that's our baby. That is our goal. We are going to hit that because that is that important for these types of vehicles to go that range, that urban air mobility to regional air mobility, and connecting those regions opens up the whole future in terms of mobility, transportation, and everything us humans, modern day humans, need to do. So there's no more room in the city. We have to move further out. So traveling between those is going to be a must. And you don't want to do with this traffic. Houston traffic getting worse as the population increases is something that everybody's not really thinking about, but we all see it's going to get worse. And a solution, a very big solution, a very good, safe, proper, practical solution is a must. And that is our goal.
As I listened to you, Shern, I was watching on Disney Plus last night, the Boba Fett series they've got going on in it. They've
Right.
got the traditional land speeder, and like people like that might be listening, they might be thinking, man, this guy, he's got a big idea, but is it really practical? I mean, is this really, is no pun intended, is this really going to fly? And
Yeah.
I know you are absolutely determined to make it so. So how can people like help you in this effort besides your Patreon? Like what are the things you're doing? I think you have some kind of a rodeo or event coming up.
Right.
Like how can people plug in? How can they support what it is you're doing if they believe in it?
If you believe in us, just come follow along. Just join the team. You don't have to join a flight club directly, but follow along with us. Always engage. If you want to contact me, reach out on all of our social media at NANCo Aero on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and everything. So just follow us, keep along. We are having a pretty big event, our first large event, um, Advanced Air Mobility, Steampunk, and Sky Freedom here in Houston. It is part of the Houston Tech Rodeo, which is a technology themed rodeo for Houston to get the whole technology startup sector in Houston, all excited about tech. We're hosting the final day event for that week long series, and what we're doing is pretty much bringing the community information about advanced air mobility, everything from drones to big drones to full scale people carrying flying cars. Hey, are these things really coming? Yes. And this is what's here now, right? So we're bringing all of the information as well as having some fun, as well as getting people excited. If you want to get involved, letting people know how they can get more involved with us or even the broader industry, or getting with Dawn. Like, hey, if you looking for a podcast with this information, yes, she is here. So we're having that type of event March 4th at the University of Houston downtown at the Sky Lounge and Auditorium. Hope to see
I
everyone.
love that you're doing this, Shern, because we always talk, I mean, especially in Clubhouse, we always talk about public acceptance. And I was just talking to somebody yesterday. I said, we're so good at FUBU, right? For us, by us. Like we're so good at talking to ourselves about ourselves. Even my podcast, I would love to break through more mainstream and have people that aren't in this industry watching this more regularly because they would learn a lot. And so thank you for doing that. I think it's so hugely important. I believe you're also partnering with the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma for an event they have upcoming. I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan of the Choctaws. I've been a fan from day one. The minute I
Okay.
met James Grimsley at the Commercial UAV Expo, like 2019, and we sat down for like an hour and a half just talking about the industry. He had me hooked, and so they have an upcoming event, I think in early April, that you're going to be involved in.
Right. So we're looking at, demoing our vehicle there. So they're allowing people to fly. I haven't been there. So from the stories they've told, like, yes, come fly your technology there. And me is like, yes, I want to be there. So we are going to be there April 4th, I believe, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's right.
right. So to demo our at least our drone and show off the capabilities of, If you're asking, hey, can these things fly? Well, the drone can fly. And if drones can fly and the helicopters can fly, those are scalable, then yes, what we're presenting today, we can scale it up to the full scale version, right? The technology is there. Only thing that's missing is, some team. If you're an engineer looking to join a fabulous team, we are looking. Definitely contact us. But yes, we are building a full scale and looking to present at the Choctaw.
That's so cool. And I had mentioned Vertical Flight Society, or VFS. I believe you're also plugging into their Forum 78 in May.
Have to be at Forum. So those are Forum 78 this year for me is the number one must. Vertical Flight Society I find to be the leading society in terms of bringing about advanced air mobility. Of course, history it's all about helicopters, but now there's the transition to these eVTOLs. So this is or that event would be the perfect event, is the perfect event to present what we have, especially since the rest of the industry is going to be there. So if we claim to be part of it, we have to be there. And yes, I would like to show off our vehicle there as well as network with as many people as I can. So for me, I used to love CES. I think Forum 78 is going to be my new bestie. So yeah, I can't wait to get there.
Yeah, CES is spectacular. In fact, we're talking vertical flight, we're talking CES, good convergence is there. We've got women in drones out there saying great conversation. We did our Women to Watch Global Awards at CES this year, and there's a great partnership now between Women in Drones and Vertical Flight Society, and educational partnerships. So everybody keep your eyes open for more on that. I know Sharon Rossmark was on a panel at their Transformative Vertical Flight event in January. So, unfortunately, I was unable to make that one. I had a little bit of a conflict, but I really wanted to be there. So great stuff. We also, by the way, have Kay Cruz out there saying good morning. Kay is also a regular and shows up quite frequently in our clubhouse as well. So all good stuff, Shern. I'm glad you're getting out and about, and folks are really going to get to see firsthand your technology, because frankly, that's how you and I met. And honestly, when you think about this industry and connections, all the things we're talking about, and ones you didn't mention, but I'm going to throw out there, like True Weather Solutions is having an amazing event in the DC area in March 17th at the Elevate campus, which is drone training facility
Yeah.
right near the heart of DC. I mean, you can't get any better than that especially for federal agencies looking to fly. And of course, AUVSI, and you guys are all going to see my little marketing tile here towards the end. But I really welcome everybody to my Law Tech workshop that's going to be on Monday, April 25th at AUVSI, first ever. Frankly, one of the major reasons why I created my company was to put on these legal tech events, continuing legal education credits for lawyers, spectacular education for everybody else. Really, really happy that we're finally launching that, and so happy that AUVSI is partnering with me and my company on that. Kay is saying that he hopes to see you there in I guess April 4th or something, maybe at the Choctaw one there, Shern.
Okay.
So he said March, but I think we were
So
talking April and May. So okay, I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but in any event, make sure you go up and say hi to Shern. All right, we are almost at the top of our hour here, or 45 minutes, right, Shern? So what I want to do is give you that kind of last 30-second elevator speech. What you want to leave people with as we kind of close out this episode?
what pops in my mind right now, I just want to let everybody know, like what we believe, Sky Freedom, flying cars are the future of life saving, right? So saving your life and time in traffic, right, as well as in an emergency situation, actually being able to save your life in that situation. So that safety aspect in saving lives is what we're really about. And if you're about that, definitely follow along NANCo Aero, and let's create this movement to bring about this very much needed technology. I greatly appreciate the invite and the time to tell my story and present our brand and our technology, Don. Thank you, as well as the sponsors on here. I greatly appreciate it. And happy Wednesday. Aim high, stay fly. Peace.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Sharon. Well, that's a wrap for this particular episode, but I do want to say our very last dual use technologies episode will air next Wednesday, and tomorrow on Clubhouse, 1 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have our guest from Elsight, another Israel-based company. Yoav Amitai, the CEO, is going to be talking about their connectivity solution that straddles both military and civilian sectors. For those that follow me, you may have seen me just gushing about the fact that I was on Lady Gaga's stage in January at the end of CES during Edge 2022. I was able to fly a drone from that stage in Israel, in Las Vegas, in Israel, thanks to Elsight's Halo solution. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow and a little bit more next week. I hope you all join us. In the meantime, that's it. Hope to see you tomorrow on Clubhouse. See you. Have a great remainder to your week. And as Shern said, out here, fly safe.